beneath the calm surface of Earth's oceans where sunlight could never reach. There was something hidden that almost no one alive knew about. It was not a treasure of gold or forgotten ruins of the past, but something far greater. Something that would one day change the fate of humanity and the galaxy itself. 1,000,000 warships, massive and silent, slept beneath the crushing weight of water, waiting for a moment that might never come. For centuries, they had remained locked away, their steel bodies covered by layers of darkness, their power sealed by ancient codes only a few still guarded. To the world above, Earth looked ordinary, vulnerable, and fragile. To the galaxy beyond, it was little more than an easy target, but those who believed so had no idea of the sleeping giants below. Uncaptained Daniel Brooks was one of the few who knew the truth. He was not a man of wealth or glory, but he carried on his shoulders the burden of secrets handed down through generations. His grandfather had whispered to him about the hidden fleet when he was only a boy. And since then, Daniel had carried that knowledge like a heavy stone in his heart. It was not a secret one could ever share, not with friends, not even with family. To speak of, it was forbidden, and the punishment was death. The guardians who watched over the fleet had made sure of that. And so Daniel lived his life quietly, serving as a captain in Earth's modest navy, while all the while knowing that beneath the very waters he patrolled lay weapons of a scale beyond imagination. The oceans themselves kept the secret well. No alien scans could pierce the depths where the fleet rested. The energy fields around them were cloaked by natural magnetic currents, the kind most civilizations ignored as background noise. The warships had been designed to remain unseen, to sleep like predators buried in sand until the time came to rise again. They were relics of an age long forgotten, built by humans who understood that one day the galaxy would turn against Earth. Those builders had long since turned to dust, but their vision had endured. The ships remained. And above, humanity struggled. The colonies on Mars and the moons of Jupiter were small and fragile. Earth's military fleets were considered laughable compared to the massive armadas of alien empires. The Galactic Council often sent their probes, scanning Earth, counting its ships, and mocking the weakness they saw. To the Council, humans were reckless children who did not know their place. Many species believed Earth's survival was a mistake, and that sooner or later it would need to be corrected. That correction, they whispered in their halls, would come in the form of war. Daniel Brooks stood one night on the deck of his vessel, staring across the moonlit Pacific. The sea was calm, but he knew what slept below. The fleet was not just steel and engines, not just machines of war. To him, it was like a slumbering god, patient and unbending. He could feel its presence in the water, though no eye could see it. Sometimes he wondered if the ships dreamed, if they remembered the hands that built them, or the promises whispered into their hulls before they sank into the deep. They had waited for so long, too long perhaps. Would they ever be called upon? Or would they rust away in silence, their purpose forgotten as humanity continued to stumble forward blindly? N.B.U.T. Brooks was not the only one who knew. There were others, scattered across Earth, men and women who carried the same burden. Admiral Claire Johnson, a brilliant leader with a sharp mind, had been raised in the same tradition of guardianship. Marcus Hill, a strategist known for his unusual ideas, also carried knowledge of the hidden fleet. Together, they formed a silent network, bound not by orders, but by duty. They did not speak of it openly, yet every glance, every unspoken word, reminded them of what they carried. They were the watchers of the abyss, and they knew that one day the choice would come to awaken the fleet, or to let humanity fall. The thought of awakening, it filled Brooks with both hope and fear. The power hidden below was staggering. 1,000,000 ships meant more firepower than all known alien armadas combined. But such power was not meant for careless hands. If revealed too early, the galaxy would unite in terror against Earth. If revealed too late, humanity might be destroyed before the fleet could even rise. Timing was everything. That was why the Guardians had waited in silence for centuries, training new generations, keeping the codes alive, making sure the knowledge never died. In the cities above, ordinary people went about their lives, unaware of what slept beneath the oceans. Children played by the beaches, lovers walked along the shores, fishermen cast their nets, never knowing that just beneath their boats, titans rested. Governments argued over budgets and trade. Colonists complained about oxygen rations and food shortages. No one looked down into the depths. No one asked what might be hidden there. The secret was safe. And yet Brooks could not ignore the growing tension. The galaxy's whispers had become louder. Aliens no longer mocked humanity with laughter. They spoke of fear, of ending the human problem before it grew too large. Fleets were moving in space, and reports reached Earth of gatherings of ships far too close to be harmless. The time was coming. Brooks could feel it, like a storm pressing against the air before lightning struck. Humanity's greatest gamble was hidden in the abyss, and soon, perhaps too soon, the order would come. En masse, he stood by the rail, the night winds brushing against his face. He clenched his fists and whispered to the waves, "Sleep, my giants. Sleep until the time comes. When the galaxy thinks us weak, you will rise. And when you rise, they will finally know who we are." Empty water lapped gently at the hull, calm and endless. But beneath it, the silence of a million ships waited, heavy and eternal, ready to break the galaxy's illusions forever. The Galactic Council chamber was vast, its ceiling shaped like a dome of living crystal that reflected the light of 1,000 stars. Representatives from dozens of alien empires sat in high seats, their voices rising and falling like waves. For years, they had treated humanity as a minor nuisance, a loud but powerless species scratching for survival among the stars. But now their tone had changed. Rumors filled the air, rumors of human colonies spreading faster than expected, of trade routes opening where none should exist, of Earth daring to defy older powers. The Council had grown uneasy, and uneasy leaders often chose war over patience. At the center of the hall, Chancellor Vaith of the Drakkar slammed his claw against the floor. His people had fought countless wars, and he hungered for another. "Humans are parasites," he declared, his voice echoing across the chamber. "They spread and consume. If we allow them to grow unchecked, they will one day threaten us all. The time to act is now." His words were met with cheers from some empires and low growls from others. Not every voice in the chamber agreed. Elder Thalos of the Silvari, a tall being of silver skin and calm eyes, raised his hand. "We should not underestimate humans," he warned. "Their history shows resilience. They rise from every loss stronger than before. To strike them may bring a storm we do not expect." His warning was dismissed with laughter. To most in the Council, Earth looked like a soft fruit, waiting to be crushed. Their fleets counted only in the thousands. Their colonies were fragile, and their technology, though advancing, could not rival ancient empires. The vote began. Lights flashed across the chamber. One by one, empires choosing their side. Strike or wait. War or peace. When the final mark was tallied, the result was clear. Humanity's fate was sealed. The Galactic Council had chosen war. Far from the Council chamber, hidden watchers listened. Humanity had no official voice in the Council, but spies had ways of passing information. A young courier named Lily Carter sat in a dusty room in New Boston. Mars, decoding the Council's transmission with trembling fingers. When she finished, her hands shook so hard she almost dropped the tablet. The aliens were coming. Not in years, not in decades, but sooner than anyone expected. The Council had ordered a full strike, and the coalition fleet was already forming. She rushed the message to Earth, where Admiral Claire Johnson read it in silence. Her face did not betray the storm inside her. She had known this day would come, though she had prayed for more time. Standing beside her, strategist Marcus Hill studied the report. 500,000 ships, he muttered. They'll try to overwhelm us before we can resist. They'll burn our cities to ash. But Admiral Johnson was calm. Her eyes moved across the paper, then lifted to the horizon. They think we're weak, she said softly. They think we only have the fleets. They can see. That is their mistake. In the Council chamber, the aliens celebrated their decision. They toasted to an easy victory, imagining humans screaming under their fire. They believed Earth was defenseless, a ripe world that had dared to rise too quickly. None of them could imagine what truly waited in the depths of Earth's oceans. Silent and patient. None of them knew that 1,000,000 warships slumbered beneath the waves, waiting for the order to rise. But on Earth, among the guardians of the secret, the mood was different. Captain Daniel Brooks met with Admiral Johnson and Marcus Hill in a quiet room deep under the Pacific Command Base. The report lay between them, heavy as a tombstone. Brooks clenched his jaw. It's begun, he said. The Council has chosen our extinction. Marcus tapped the table nervously. Do we wait? Do we let them strike first? Or? His voice trailed off because he knew the choice that lingered unspoken. Admiral Johnson leaned forward, her eyes like steel. We wait for their first strike. When they see fire fall on Earth, when they believe they have one, that is when we awaken the fleet. The galaxy will learn what it means to mistake silence for weakness. Brooks nodded, though his heart pounded. The decision was clear now. The galaxy had passed its judgment, and Earth would answer. The sleeping giants beneath the waves would not rest much longer. Above, the stars glittered with false calm. Fleets were gathering in the dark, their engines burning like hungry predators closing in on prey. But prey was not what they would find. Soon, the oceans would open, and the galaxy would face the storm it had never imagined. Marcus tapped the table nervously. Do we wait? Do we let them strike first? Or? His voice trailed off because he knew the choice that lingered unspoken. Admiral Johnson leaned forward, her eyes like steel. We wait for their first strike. When they see fire fall on Earth, when they believe they have one, that is when we awaken the fleet. The galaxy will learn what it means to mistake silence for weakness. Brooks nodded, though his heart pounded. The decision was clear now. The galaxy had passed its judgment, and Earth would answer. The sleeping giants beneath the waves would not rest much longer. Above, the stars glittered with false calm. Fleets were gathering in the dark, their engines burning like hungry predators closing in on prey. But prey was not what they would find. Soon, the oceans would open, and the galaxy would face the storm it had never imagined. The first strike came without mercy. It began as a shadow, a dark blot spreading across the sky as the alien armada emerged from hyperspace. 500,000 ships shimmered into orbit around Earth. Their formation so vast it swallowed the sun for those who stood beneath. People in cities looked up and gasped as the daylight dimmed. To them, it was as if the heavens themselves had cracked open and poured out death. Alarms howled across Earth's defense networks. Sirens wailed in New York, Tokyo, and Lagos as screens lit up with warnings. Unidentified fleets in orbit. Families rushed into shelters, children clutched by trembling hands. Soldiers scrambled into bunkers, their weapons useless against what? Hung above them, the alien coalition had not come to threaten. They had come to end humanity. The first beams fell. White lances of energy cut through the atmosphere, striking oceans and empty fields to show their power. Skyscrapers trembled under the shockwaves. Satellites shattered as alien cannons swept the skies clean. In orbit, Earth's small fleet, barely a few thousand ships, rose, desperately to meet them. Brave men and women climbed into cockpits, knowing the odds, knowing they were flying into certain death. Their weapons fired bright streaks of light against the endless wall of alien ships. For every alien fighter they destroyed, 100 more appeared. On the surface, panic spread. News broadcasts went silent as orbital stations were destroyed. People screamed that it was the end. Farmers abandoned their fields, miners left their drills. And colonists on Mars sent desperate final messages to their families on Earth. Everywhere, the same word echoed, extinction, but deep beneath the Pacific. Far from the noise of the world above, Captain Daniel Brooks stood inside a sealed chamber. The room was lit only by the glow of ancient consoles, their symbols pulsing faintly as though they had been waiting for centuries to be touched again. Admiral Claire Johnson was beside him, her uniform damp with sweat, but her eyes sharp and steady. Strategist Marcus Hill paced the edge of the chamber, muttering to himself, already calculating what would follow. "They believe this is the end," Brooks said, his voice heavy with both anger and awe as the ground shook above them. "But they don't know. They never knew." Admiral Johnson placed her hand on the console. It hummed, recognizing the bloodline of those who had guarded it for generations. Her voice was calm, but her words carried the weight of history. "This is the moment our ancestors prepared us for. If we wait longer, there will be nothing left to save. It is time." Brooks hesitated for only a breath. He remembered his grandfather's words, whispered to him as a child. "One day you will carry the key. One day you will awaken them. And when you do, the galaxy will never be the same." Now that day had come. He pressed his palm against the final seal, far beneath. In the black silence of the Mariana Trench, the ocean began to quake. Metal doors, larger than cities, groaned as they slid open, releasing bursts of ancient bubbles into the sea. From the Arctic shelves to the Indian Ocean ridges, the same awakening stirred. The water trembled as titans of steel began to move. Warships, colossal in size, stirred after centuries of sleep. Fighters and cruisers, their hulls still gleaming despite the ages, powered to life. On the surface, fishermen and coastal guards stared in disbelief as the ocean boiled. Massive waves rose, tossing ships like toys. Lights glowed beneath the water, vast and unnatural. Then, one by one, shadows broke the surface. Enormous hulls surged upward, dripping with seawater. There, engines roaring to life. The skies, moments ago, filled with alien invaders, now shook with the thunder of humanity's hidden fleet. A child standing on the beaches of California cried out and pointed as a vessel the size of a mountain rose from the sea, blocking out the horizon. In Lagos, people on rooftops wept as sleek black warships ascended, their cannons glowing with fury. The world had thought itself defenseless. Now it watched a miracle unfold. In orbit, the alien commanders were caught off guard. Their scanners went wild as signatures filled the system. Thousands, then tens of thousands, then hundreds of thousands of warships rising all at once. A commander of the Valith Armada snarled in disbelief. "Impossible," he hissed. They had only scraps. They were weak. "What is this?" It was humanity's answer. The fleet climbed higher, filling the skies, forming lines and wings with perfect precision, as if no time had passed since they were first built. On the flagship Resolute, Admiral Johnson stood tall, her voice steady. As she spoke to the crews of 1,000,000 ships, "This is our home. We will not kneel. We will not break. Show them what it means to challenge Earth. The order was given. The night sky ignited as the first salvo was unleashed. Plasma beams ripped through the void, tearing alien carriers in half. Swarms of drones poured from Earth ships, overwhelming enemy fighters. Massive dreadnoughts cut into the alien lines with brutal precision, where aliens had believed they would conquer. They now found themselves crushed. On the ground, humanity watched in stunned silence as the impossible became real. They had not been abandoned. They had not been left defenseless. Their oceans had carried a secret for centuries, and now that secret had awakened. The first strike of the aliens had begun as a moment of terror. But now, it had become the spark of Earth's vengeance. And for the first time in history, the galaxy would learn that humanity was not prey, not fragile, not weak. Humanity had been waiting, and humanity was ready. Across every ocean, the water roared like a beast unchained. The planet itself seemed to tremble as the hidden fleet rose. From the deepest trenches and frozen shelves, titans of steel broke free, their colossal hulls sending shockwaves across the seas. Entire coastlines shook as waves towered above cities, and people who had thought the end was near now stared at the rising ships with awe and terror. They had thought themselves powerless. Instead, they were witnessing the rebirth of Earth's might. The first ships to emerge were leviathans, war machines so vast their shadows consumed the horizon. Each one carried weapons capable of splitting moons, their hulls plated in dark alloys that shimmered like black glass under the sun. Alongside them rose sleek cruisers and swift fighters, swarms of smaller craft gliding like schools of fish around their gigantic guardians. The sight was unreal, like myths dragging themselves out of the deep to remind humanity that legends often held truth. In San Francisco, families who had been hiding in bunkers rushed back out to watch the impossible. Children pointed with wide eyes as hundreds of ships shot out of the Pacific like arrows, their engines glowing like new stars. In Manila, the ground quaked as behemoths breached the surface, rising taller than the tallest buildings. A grandmother, her hands trembling, whispered to her grandson, "They were waiting for us. They never left us." For the first time that day, hope surged through the hearts of billions. In orbit, the alien coalition froze. Their scanners screamed warnings as the numbers grew. 10,000 ships, 50,000, 100,000, and still the count climbed. Higher, the commander of the Zelkar fleet snarled in disbelief. "This cannot be. Their oceans cannot hold this." Yet the data did not lie. Humanity's fleet was not a few thousand defenders. It was a storm, a tidal wave of firepower the galaxy had never prepared for. On the flagship Resolute, Admiral Claire Johnson stood at the center of the command deck, drenched in the blue glow of the ship's vast screens. Her officers worked with disciplined silence, their fear buried under years of secret preparation. Johnson's voice cut through the hum of the engines like a blade. "Form the wall. Shield Earth. Make them regret thinking we were blind and weak." Captain Daniel Brooks watched as squadrons assembled with flawless precision. Ships that had not seen the stars for centuries moved as if they had trained every day. It was as though they had been waiting for this exact moment, their silence never rusting their unity. Fighters streamed into the skies, their formations so tight they looked like rivers of fire cutting across the heavens. Dreadnoughts aligned, their colossal cannons glowing as they prepared to fire. Marcus Hill, standing behind Johnson, muttered in awe, "It's like waking a god. They'll never believe this. They'll never forgive this." The awakening was not just a sight of steel, was a roar that echoed in every human soul. Billions on Earth, who had thought their lives moments away from extinction, now looked up and saw power unmatched. Every eye turned to the heavens, watching their world rise not as prey, but as predator. Fear drained away, replaced with pride. They were not alone. Their oceans had carried their salvation all along. The alien fleet, still massive, adjusted their lines. Their commanders barked desperate orders. They had expected a weak fight, an easy conquest. Now they faced a nightmare. Ships began to retreat into defensive positions, their arrogance crumbling. But the humans did not wait. Admiral Johnson gave the command. Advance. The newly awakened fleet surged forward, breaking through the clouds and climbing into orbit. Engines thundered like the wrath of storms. Plasma lances and missile batteries primed, locking onto enemy signatures with unwearying precision. The sky above Earth became alive with light. As though the stars themselves had descended to wage war, one alien commander sent a frantic message. To the Council, they lied to us. Earth was never weak. They hid their strength beneath the seas. It is not a planet, it is a fortress. But his words were lost in the chaos. The awakening was complete. Humanity's fleet had taken its first breath, and the galaxy, for the first time, trembled. The silence of all lasted only moments. Then the heavens erupted in fire. The alien coalition unleashed everything they had. 500,000 warships, spitting beams, missiles, and plasma torpedoes toward Earth. The sky lit up in blinding arcs of destruction, the kind that once would have reduced Earth's defenses to ash. But now it met something far deadlier. From the vanguard of Earth's awakened fleet, plasma lances burned across the void. One strike split an enemy battleship clean in half, the two pieces tumbling into the atmosphere like meteors before disintegrating. Swarms of human drones, released in great clouds, rushed enemy fighter lines, darting like furious hornets. Alien ships tried to scatter, but the drones pierced their shields and gutted their hulls with surgical strikes. For every drone lost, 10 more seemed to rise, and panic spread through the alien formations. On the bridge of the Resolute, Admiral Claire Johnson stood firm, her eyes locked on the tactical displays. Her voice was sharp and steady, carrying to every captain, every squadron leader, every fighter pilot. Do not give them an inch. Earth does not kneel. Earth does not break. Her words carried across the fleet, not as simple orders, but as a vow. Pilots who moments ago thought themselves facing certain death now fought like legends, pushing their craft beyond limits. Commanders maneuvered with precision, dreadnoughts forming lines that carved through enemy formations. Humanity was not merely surviving, it was overwhelming. In the midst of the battle, Captain Daniel Brooks guided his ship, the Vigilant, into a swarm of alien cruisers. His crew worked furiously, targeting engines and weak points. Each shot was deliberate, ruthless. Cut their throats, then vanish. Into the smoke, Brooks ordered, his voice steady even as his hands trembled with adrenaline. His ship darted through the chaos like a predator, crippling 3 enemy vessels in minutes before diving behind the protective shadow of a dreadnought. Marcus Hill watched from the command hub, his mind racing with strategies. He saw the fear spreading in alien lines, the disorder breaking once disciplined formations. Strike the carriers, he urged, sending commands across the fleet. Burn. Their command ships cut the head and the body will collapse. And so it was done. Waves of Earth's warships descended on the alien carriers, tearing them apart in a storm of fire. The night sky over Earth burned. Billions of humans stood on rooftops, beaches, and mountains, staring upward as the battle painted the heavens. What they saw was not despair, but vengeance. The ocean-borne fleet unleashed fire so bright it turned the night into day. Whole cities erupted in cheers, voices rising in unison. For the first time, humanity was not the fragile child of the stars. They were the storm the galaxy had feared but never believed in. On the alien side, chaos grew. Commanders screamed orders that went unheard. Ships broke formation, some fleeing, others firing wildly as they realized the truth. Their prey had become the predator. One alien admiral, his crest trembling, whispered, "The thought none dared to say aloud. We have awakened something that should have remained buried." But it was too late. Humanity had risen. The Resolute advanced at the heart of the formation, its massive cannons firing with relentless fury. Admiral Johnson's gaze never wavered. To her, this was not just survival. It was justice for centuries of arrogance, for every insult. For every whisper in the halls of the Galactic Council that Earth was weak, primitive, unworthy. Each alien ship that shattered beneath her fleet's fire was a message. Earth had been underestimated for the last time. By the battle's second hour, alien fleets had already lost tens of thousands of ships. Human losses were their two fighters torn apart, ships shattered, lives sacrificed, but the tide was undeniable. The coalition had believed Earth was a ripe fruit to be plucked. Instead, they had bitten into iron. As the battle raged, the oceans below reflected the fury above, glowing red and white as beams streaked across the sky. On every continent, humans wept, shouted, and prayed as they watched their hidden legacy tear through the invaders. The message was clear, carried across every battlefield and every heart. Humanity was no longer prey. Humanity was war. And this was only the beginning. The smoke of victory still hung over Earth's skies when the next decision came. Alien wreckage drifted in orbit like shattered bones, burning as it fell into the atmosphere. The oceans, which only hours before had been calm and secretive, now churned with the echoes of war. Humanity had survived the first strike, but Admiral Claire Johnson knew survival was not enough. They waited. The alien coalition would regroup. If they hesitated, the Council would rally every empire against Earth. The only choice was to strike backhand strike, so hard that the galaxy itself would never forget. In the command chamber of the Resolute, the air was thick with tension. Screens glowed with maps of hyperspace lanes, supply depots, and enemy strongholds. Marcus Hill leaned over the table, his fingers racing across the console as he pulled up forgotten wormhole routes. "These aren't on any galactic charts," he said with a faint smile. "The Council erased them centuries ago, but our ancestors kept the maps. We can appear anywhere. Their colonies, their fuel depots, even their shipyards, they won't see us coming." Captain Daniel Brooks crossed his arms, his eyes fixed on the spirals of alien territory glowing on the display. "If we strike too far, too soon, they'll see us as conquerors. They'll unite against us." His voice carried the weight of caution, but also of fear. Humanity had revealed its hand. The galaxy would never forgive the deception. AdmiralJohnson.com, as ever, turned her gaze toward him. "If we do nothing, they'll crush us with sheer numbers. They already wanted us dead. Now they fear us. That fear is our weapon. We hit them where it hurts, and we make the galaxy understand. Coming for Earth is suicide." Her words silenced the room. For centuries, humans had hidden. Now, for the first time, they would carry war to the stars. The first counterstrike came swiftly. Using the ancient wormhole charts, entire squadrons of Earth's warships vanished from orbit. Moments later, they appeared above an alien refueling station orbiting a gas giant in Drakkar space. The defenders scrambled, but the human fleet was Suki Skaze. But the human fleet was already firing. Plasma lances cut through tankers, turning the skies into fire. Carriers unloaded drone swarms that ripped through enemy fighters like locusts through crops. Within minutes, the station was ash, its wreckage spinning into the giant's atmosphere. News of the strike spread like wildfire. Before the Drakkar could recover, Another human fleet appeared in Zelkar territory, this time targeting their main shipyard. The aliens had considered it untouchable, protected by thick rings of defenses. But when the first human dreadnought tore through the shield grid with weapons they had never seen before, panic turned to horror. Thousands of half-built alien ships were reduced to molten wreckage on colony worlds once thought safe. Alien citizens looked up in terror as Earth's fleet appeared without warning. Human warships, sleek and merciless, hung above their skies like judgment. Some colonies surrendered instantly, sending desperate pleas for mercy. Others resisted and were burned to ash. Everywhere, the same message spread. Humanity was not defending anymore. Humanity was hunting. Marcus Hill tracked the reactions across. The Galaxy Council empires were crumbling under fear. Some demanded immediate peace. Others called for vengeance, but their fleets were too scattered, too unprepared. The council chamber, once filled with smug laughter at Earth's weakness, now shook with shouting and blame. "They hid this from us," cried one ambassador. "We struck a sleeping giant," hissed another. The unity that had built the coalition was shattering. Back on the Resolute, Brooks stood beside Johnson, staring at the stars outside the viewport. "This is bigger than war now," he said quietly. "We've changed the galaxy forever." Johnson did not smile. Her eyes were steel. "Good. Let them remember us. Let them fear every ocean, every shadow, every silence. Let them wonder where else we might be hiding." And so Earth's fleet pressed forward, striking again and again. The galaxy, once confident in its control, was now trembling in the dark. Humanity had taken the war beyond their shores, and the storm they unleashed could not be contained. The Galactic Council chamber, once the proud heart of order and power, now echoed with chaos. Where once ambassadors spoke with cool arrogance, now they shouted over one another in panic. Holograms flickered across the chamber, each one reporting. Disaster after disaster, burned shipyards, shattered fleets, colonies gone silent. The coalition's great banners, symbols of strength, now hung limp as their empires fractured under the storm of Earth's counterstrikes. Chancellor Vaith of the Drakkar slammed his clawed hand against the table, sparks flying from the impact. "You fools said they were weak. You promised me an easy war." His voice was half rage, half fear, and for the first time in centuries, his fellow counselors heard despair in his tone. The Zelkar representative hissed back, her crest trembling. "Do not blame us, Faith. You voted, as we all did. You mocked the warnings. Now we face the price." They knew. They hid their power for generations. We struck a fortress, not a farm. Some demanded peace, others revenge. Elder Thalos of the Sylvari raised his silver hand, his calm voice cutting through the noise. "We must accept the truth. Humanity has changed everything. To fight them further will only destroy us all. They are not a minor species. They are the storm we have feared." But his wisdom was drowned in shouts of defiance. Old rivalries resurfaced as fear ate away at unity. Empires that had once stood together now turned against one another, blaming allies for failures. Whispers of betrayal filled the chamber, some accusing others of secretly aiding Earth, others plotting to break away from the coalition entirely. The council was shattering, piece by piece, under the weight of a truth too great to deny. Across the galaxy, ordinary citizens watched the chaos with growing dread. On Drakkar worlds, civilians rioted as news spread of entire fleets destroyed. In Zelkar colonies, leaders who had once mocked humans now ordered walls built and armies raised, praying it would be enough. Merchants whispered of human fleets appearing and vanishing like ghosts, hitting supply lines without warning. Refugees fled from border worlds, carrying stories of human dreadnoughts that turned night into fire. On Earth, The mood was the opposite. Where despair had once reigned, pride now surged like a tide. Billions stood united, not as scattered nations, but as one people. Broadcasts replayed the moment the fleet had risen from the oceans, replayed the first strikes against alien fleets. Children wore badges with the symbols of awakened warships. Songs were sung of the Resolute and its admiral, of captains who faced impossible odds and did not flinch. In a private chamber aboard the flagship, Captain Daniel Brooks stared at the stars, listening to the quiet hum of the ship beneath his feet. He thought of the council breaking apart in fear, and he felt no pity. "They called us reckless children," he said softly, almost to himself. "But it's they who underestimated the fire of survival." Admiral Claire Johnson joined him, her gaze fixed on the same stars. "The council is finished," she said, her voice steady. "They cannot command the galaxy when they cannot even command their own fear. And now, every empire knows the truth. Earth is no longer prey." Marcus Hill entered with fresh reports. His expression carried a strange mix of triumph and unease. "They're already calling us something new in the outer colonies," he said. "Not humans, not Terrans. They're calling us the Abyss Fleet, the ones who rose from the oceans, the ones who strike from nowhere. They're turning us into—" Myth Johnson allowed herself a rare smile. "Good. Myths last longer than wars. Let them tell their children stories of Earth. Let those stories carry fear." And as the council continued to tear itself apart, Earth's people stood taller, their voices rising as one. Humanity had not just defended itself, had broken the galaxy's balance, shattered the illusions of power. The council was collapsing into chaos, and from the ashes, a new order was being born. An order led by a species that the galaxy had mocked, underestimated, and nearly destroyed. The storm had come. And it wore a human face. Captain Daniel Brooks stood at the wide viewport of the Resolute, watching the alien envoys arrive. Their ships were smaller, humbled, their once-proud banners dimmed to shadows. They had come not with weapons, but with bowed heads and trembling voices. For the first time in memory, alien leaders crossed a threshold of a human flagship, not as masters or equals, but as those who feared the weight of silence. The great hall of the Resolute had been prepared for the meeting. Rows of human officers stood in ceremonial dress, their eyes sharp, their stances proud. At the center, Admiral Claire Johnson waited with calm authority, her hands clasped behind her back. The alien envoys entered one by one, the Drakkar, their claws retracted, the Zalkar, their crests lowered. The Solvari, quiet but watchful, all bore the same look. The look of those who had faced a storm and survived only because the storm had allowed it. One of the envoys, a trembling Drakkar, spoke. "First, we come to seek peace. The council is broken. The coalition fleets lie in ruin. The galaxy no longer doubts humanity's strength. We no longer dare to." His words fell heavy in the chamber, and for a moment, silence followed. Johnson's eyes never wavered. "You came to erase us," she said, her voice steady, carrying through the hall. "You brought fire to our skies, expecting us to fall to our knees. Now you see what hid beneath our oceans. Now you know what we truly are. Peace is not a gift you offer us. It is mercy we allow you." The envoys lowered their heads further. No one argued. No one dared. Daniel Brooks watched from the side, his chest heavy with both pride and unease. Humanity had risen beyond survival, beyond defense. They had shattered the illusions of the galaxy. The fleet that had once been forgotten in the abyss now sailed the stars, and no empire could deny it. Yet with power came something heavier, responsibility. The galaxy would not forgive easily, and fear was a double-edged blade. Later, standing alone at the viewport, Brooks gazed at Earth below. The oceans shimmered, calm again, as though hiding their secret once more. He remembered walking those shores as a boy, hearing whispers of giants in the deep. Now those whispers had become thunder. Humanity had revealed itself, and the stars would never look the same. Marcus Hill joined him quietly, holding a data slate filled with new reports. "It's begun," he said softly. "All across the galaxy, rulers are rewriting their laws. Colonies are swearing loyalty to Earth. Merchants are shifting trade routes in our favor. We haven't just defended our world. Daniel, we've started something larger. The galaxy is no longer theirs to shape. It's ours." Brooks exhaled. Slowly, his reflection faint against the glass. "Then we'd better shape it wisely. Power this great can burn as easily as it protects." Behind them, Admiral Johnson entered, her presence like iron. "Let them fear us," she said, her voice calm but unyielding. "Let them whisper of the Abyss Fleet. Fear will keep them from raising their claws again. And while they fear, humanity will rise higher than they dreamed possible." Far below, on the surface of Earth, billions celebrated. The oceans that had once seemed ordinary now carried a story that would echo for generations. Children played on beaches, pointing to the skies where the ships had ascended. Songs were sung of the night, the seas boiled, and titans rose to defend their world. Humanity was no longer a scattered people hoping for survival. They were united, strong and feared. The dawn of a new order had come. No longer hidden, no longer underestimated. Humanity's million warships now sailed openly among the stars. The galaxy would never be ready again, for this was the beginning of the human age